Vagabond Adventure Pictures present Mr. Tom Terriss, who on account of his wanderings in foreign lands,
around the equator as they are called. Their coral sands lapped by magic seas. Travelers call it Journey's End, this place of fairyland. Here we have arrived, but are obliged to stay out at sea because there are no docks on this part of the coast. Instead, several natives hold a chair. You fall into one and take rather a hazardous ride ashore, hoping to goodness the rickety thing doesn't fall apart. In trying to squirm into a more comfortable position, I almost lost whatever change I had in my pockets, so decided it was cheaper to remain uncomfortable. Looking around, we saw some picturesque boats called prows. There was some kind of local celebration going on, and from all appearance it looked like a regatta. Inquiring, we found it was a formal affair. The town's officials welcoming the arrival of the Dutch resident. That's the governor, you know. The two gentlemen with the queer-looking crowns are the mayor and the chief of police. They look quite important, don't they? You would too if you had to wear a hat like that. An added zest to their life in this terrestrial paradise is an affair of this kind, where they seize the slightest opportunity to deck themselves out, and in their picturesque craft, floating upon the placid waters. What a life! Traveling into the interior, we came upon this quaint bridge. Looks like a huge spider's web, doesn't it? It's made entirely of bamboo and hasn't a nail or a rivet in it. Underneath was a mass of foaming, tumbling waters. In the intense heat, they looked delightfully cool. A lovely place for a dip. And all around here are thousands of acres of green rice paddies for which the island is so famed, and a profusion of flowers, orange, violet, jasmine, filling the air with their languorous perfumes. Sometimes you come across lakes which are half mud, half water, where clusters of lovely hyacinths grow. Under these flowers live myriads of gurami, a mudfish, which often comes to the surface to breathe, which the natives consider quite a delicacy. Scooping them out with their bare hands, they eat them in their little thatched huts under the shade of sheltering palms. At the foot of a banana tree, this woman was selling batik. It's a Javanese art, you know, that dates back for 3,000 years. I bought several pieces from her. She showed me the instrument they use to apply the wax on the batik. It's made of thin copper with a bamboo handle and is called a tjanting. It interested me so I decided to visit a place where they do this artistic work. First they procure a fine muslin and draw the design upon it with wax using the tjanting. The wax is hot and not always flowing regularly, in which case the girl gives it a little blow. The wax is kept hot in a small brass kettle by her side, resting on an earthen pot filled with burning charcoal. Then after the design is finished, they dip each piece in cold dye. Of course, the wax would melt otherwise. All the colors are vegetable dyes, so a piece of batik can be washed without any fear that it will fade. If more colors are required, well, they remove the wax and cover the places they want to protect with more wax. And for every extra color, they have to repeat this process. So you have a slight idea of the amount of work that goes into making a genuine batik. Why, some pieces take as long as 2 months to make, and it's all done at home. Great lovers of beauty are these people. Orchids are as common here as our roses. Actually, there are 600 different varieties. Beautiful, isn't it? This girl is spinning yarn, quite a contrivance. But first I wondered what had become of the squirrel. The yarn is used for the cloth this little one is weaving. She's making a selendang, that's a sort of hammock, which is slung over the shoulders to carry a baby. And on account of the great heat, she has discarded the upper garment. Oh, we felt like doing the same. Ah, she made a mistake and looks at us for the first time as though to say, "Did you notice that?" Something of old Java is seen in their surviving arts. Craftsmen in leatherwork, carvings in tortoiseshell. Sword makers or brass workers like this, tapping patiently intricate designs upon ornamental trays of brass metal. Designs including the historical Wayang figure. Here working and praying go hand in hand, where you find even in their homes shrines like this. As the old man taps, the young girl prays. Ah, she was a lovely young thing, and I wondered what her prayers might be as she sat there immovable. Perhaps they were for the constant love of the stalwart brown stripling, who I noticed disappeared from her side as she entered. One of their solemn duties is the offering of food to the gods, so they may look with favor upon their prayers. Well, leaving here, I visited another island, where they are still building new temples, in which they try to reflect all the glories of the old ones. Patient and persevering as they are, the building of such temples sometimes takes a lifetime. Notice how, with the hand of an artist, this native delicately works upon his carving. It is a skill handed down from father to son, reflecting in such men as this all the arts and glories of past generations. These figures are incorrectly called gods, but are really the visual representations of the different forces of nature, such as, wind and fire and water, and in early times were carved for lack of expression in words, each telling a story, the hero and the heroine. There's the villain, look at him. Some of the temples contain as many as 20,000 figures. Why, you could spend days studying the carved life and history of Buddha alone, without even glancing at the scenes of war and love, peace. One is permitted a certain amount of freedom, of course, in visiting these old temples, yet there are places where no person outside their faith is allowed, and where you take a great risk in entering. I'd heard tales of an old temple where strange rites took place, and where once yearly a secret meeting was held. Of course, I didn't believe the stories, but when by chance I found myself there, oh, the temptation was strong. I climbed the steps leading to the temple and entered. Spots of light illuminated the place from various openings. And as I moved forward, the first thing that caught my eye was a curiously carved image, a strange mixture of the Orient. There was the smell of incense. I wondered if anyone was around, and then stopped for a moment to examine a small idol. Replacing it, I caught sight of that which I heard men speak of in low whispers, the sacred chair. Then came the impulse to sit in something centuries old, in which had once rested the center of a divine authority. For a moment I hesitated, and then went on, passing statues and other weird-looking images. I had a feeling once on that throne, the spirit of the past would haunt me with its memories of 1,000 years. Turning, I was terrified. One of the statues moved. It was alive, with eyes of flame and face of anger. The next few moments were unending as I shrunk in the chair, and then, realizing my danger, stole quietly away. To my amazement, finding myself leaving the temple unharmed. Oh, well, of course, I should have known that this fierceness was but a part of their curious makeup, descended from the ages. And then I turned and looked back. On their knees they were praying to the divine spirit to forgive the defiling of the sacred chair. Outside, it didn't take me long to run down the steps and into the country again, and I realized how foolish I was. For in these enchanting isles are only gentle, lovable people, with bright and happy thoughts and filled with the joy of living, because they love nature. In return, nature has blessed them with a land of luxurious beauty. Goodbye, mystic isles, may we soon meet